Hello and welcome to the first in a series on basic redstone. Now, redstone is an incredible thing in Minecraft. There's all sorts of contraptions that you can make, from the simple to really quite complex, but it can be a little bit tricky to understand. So if you're completely new to redstone or you think it's a little bit too complicated for you, you are in the right place, because this series is going to focus on the very basics of redstone, and we're going to build ourselves up to the more complex stuff. And we are going to start with inputs and outputs. So here's an example of what this video will not be about. In the past, when I've been learning redstone and I've searched for things like redstone for beginners, redstone basics, things like that on YouTube, I'd often find videos with circuits that are a little bit like this. Now, whilst for a redstoner this would be considered basic, for a true beginner it wouldn't. We are not going to touch circuits like this until we are ready. We are going to start off with outputs. In other words, blocks that interact with redstone, like this redstone lamp here. Okay, so let's start with the regular piston. Now, regular piston is very simple. If you power it, it puts a block, one block space in front of it, like that. Now, it can push up to 12 blocks, any more than that, and it won't work. We also have the sticky piston. Now, the sticky piston works very similarly to a normal piston, but as well as pushing the blocks out, it also pulls them back like that. And if I have a look at the surface, it has this green texture on the front, as opposed to a normal piston, because it needs a slime ball to be crafted. Moving on to doors. Now, doors, very simply, when they're powered by redstone, will open and close. And this is actually the only way that you can open an iron door. And this works with any type of door, be it oak, acacia, spruce, whatever. Trapdoors work in the same way as doors, but they open from the bottom. And this is actually the only way that you can open an iron trapdoor. Fence gates can be powered by redstone to open and close. This works for any fence gate. The redstone lamps we've already seen, they simply light up when they're powered by redstone. A note block will play a sound when it's powered by redstone, like this. Now, this actually depends the block on which it's sitting on. So if it's on top of a gold block, it makes a nice little chime like that. You could also tune it by double clicking it. And the one other thing you need to know about a note block is that it needs to be exposed to the air on the top. So if it was covered up by a block, it won't make a sound. Now, these blocks over here are called droppers. Now, if you right click a dropper, you'll notice it has a little inventory in here. And if you power it, it will spit out whatever block happens to be inside it, whatever block or item. Now, this actually can work for items with another inventory. So, for example, if a dropper is facing a chest and I power it, it will put diamonds into that chest. It's worth remembering that you can put a dropper in any orientation as well. You could have it facing the side, you could have it facing up, or you could have it facing down like this, and it will still work just as well. Okay, now these blocks are called dispensers. Now, they work in a similar way to a dropper. They've also got an inventory over here, but instead of just dropping the items out, it shoots them out like this. So this has been filled with arrows. If you notice, it fires it out as if I'm firing a bow. What works with arrows will also work with fire charges. It will fire them out like that. It will also work with splash potions. If I power that, that's given me fire resistance. And even using items. So, for example, this dispenser has shears in, and if I power it, it will shear the sheep for me, like that. Now, I will just add that the dispenser has lots more uses to it than the ones that I've shown, but I will save that for another video. Now, if you place a TNT in the dispenser and power it, not only will it spit it out, but it will also activate the TNT block, like that. And speaking of TNT, TNT itself can also be powered directly to blow it up, like that. Moving on to redstone blocks to do with rails. First off is this thing called the powered rail. Now, very simply, if you power it, it will make a minecart move. This is actually the best way of making your minecart smooth. We also have these rails, which are called activator rails. Now, if I power this with this lever, and then get in the minecart, as soon as I get to the activator rail, I automatically get kicked out. So I didn't get out manually, the activator rail kicked me out, so I didn't have to do anything. Another key use of the activator rail is that it can also activate a minecart with TNT, which is this thing over here. So if I power this on with the lever and make the minecart run into it, it will set off the fuse and blow it up. If you notice, one interesting thing about the activator rail is the TNT minecart will not blow up the rails or any of the blocks that it is on, which is quite a useful feature. And last but not least, we have the bell, which you can find in villages or you can trade for it. And if you power it, it will ring the bell like that. So moving on to inputs, and these are ways in which you power things that can be activated by redstone. So we've already seen the stone button, just turn something on and off, but we've also got the wooden button, and that's actually different because it has a higher pulse. That means things stay on for a little bit longer with the wooden button. Next up we have the lever. Very simply, if you flick the lever like this, it will continuously power something until I turn it off, like that. We also have pressure plates. Now there are 4 different types of these. I'm not going to go into every detail of how they work, but basically when you stand on them, they will emit a redstone signal. And for all except the stone pressure plate, this will work with items too. So if I throw diamonds on this pressure plate, it will power the redstone lamp like that. Next up we have the tripwire hook. Now, to make a tripwire hook setup, you need 2 tripwire hooks on blocks that are facing each other, like this, and next you need string, which you can actually place in the world. So if I connect up both of these blocks with string, you'll notice the texture changes here. And now, whenever I walk over this string, I power the redstone lamp, just like that. Now this works with players, it works with mobs, it works with items. Anything that touches that tripwire hook will emit a redstone signal. So next up we have the daylight sensor. Now, the daylight sensor does what you would expect it to. It will emit a redstone signal when it detects light. So, as it's noon right now, both of these redstone lamps are being powered. But if you right click a daylight sensor, it will basically swap it over. So this time, instead of powering a block when it detects light, it will power a block when it's dark. So if I now set the time to midnight, if you notice, they've just switched over. So this one is now being powered, this one is not. Okay, next we have the trapped chest. Now, have you noticed we've actually got 2 chests here, but this one looks slightly different. If you have a look around the latch there, it actually looks a little bit red, and that's implying that it uses redstone, which it indeed does. This is the trapped chest. If you notice, when I open it, it powers the piston directly 1 block behind it. So trapped chests are very, very useful for setting up traps, or for even contraptions that you want to use whilst opening, things like that. Next up we have the detector rail. Now the detector rail works a bit like a pressure plate, but it only works with minecarts. So if I set a minecart off here, when it runs over that detector rail, it's going to emit a redstone signal. Moving on to this block here with the kind of serious face looking at you. Now, this block is called an observer. Now typically observers are used for more advanced redstone circuits, but we're going to cover just basically what it does in this video. So what an observer does do is it detects block updates. Now if you don't know what block updates are, it's actually very simple. It's anything that changes about a block space. So this block that it's looking at here, if I place a block and if I break a block, it will emit a redstone signal. Now this works for pretty much anything. It could be water flowing, it could be crops growing, it could be a dirt block changing into grass or the other way around. Any kind of change in that block space, it will emit a redstone signal. Next up we have the redstone block. Now redstone block will simply power any block that it is touching. So I've surrounded this with redstone lamps and they are all being powered. What is also useful is that you can move these around with pistons, which is very useful when you're making some more advanced redstone circuits. And finally, we have these things, which are redstone torches. Now, instead of normal torches, which are used to light up builds and things like this, these actually just power blocks. So if you notice, they will power blocks next to them and blocks that are on top of them. And you could also place them on the side of blocks, like this. And that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Click the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed. And in the next episode, we will be discussing wiring. Thank you very much. Bye.